It could be your PJ, pajamas.
Okay, basically, just wanted to ask you, right? Like, what can we as consumers expect from YTL 40, like stuff like speeds, your pricing, data limits, and will there be any of the pitfalls that current WiMAX providers are facing, like a bandwidth congestion, that sort of thing? And the other thing was, you're talking a lot about gadgets and apps, right? So, like, what sort of gadgets and apps can what YTL 40 bring to the table, bearing in mind that YTL is not a telco, and therefore smartphones might be a bit of an issue to deal with. Thanks.
It gives me time to drink up, so thank you very much. So there were actually quite a few questions there, so let me try to take that one at a time. So your question is, we're not a telco. How do we launch this network? And you also asked, how can we launch phones with Android? So these are good questions. And your question about price plan and so on and so forth, these are all good questions. So let me try to take that. I think it's safe to say, when we launch our network, we want to launch with a new experience. We don't want to launch and give you the same old. If we want to do that, maybe it's cheaper to buy another company than to do it ourselves. We chose to take the path left taken. Why do we take the path last taken? Because we can create a new paradigm. Because we can create a new experience. And we do believe that to the extent we create a new experience, then our customers are going to reciprocate by giving us their trust. That's the fundamental reason that we're building a brand new network as opposed to buying an existing company. If you look at YTL Group's balance sheet, we certainly can buy an existing company. Point number one. Point number two, so we are not a telco. Would that be a problem for us? Well, two things. Number one, I think I'm so happy that we're not a telco. Telco customer service is a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? Who get customer service from telco? Right, thank you. So my point here is that I think it's important not to have legacy when you want to do something fresh. I work in the States, right, in a telco, and we try so hard to reinvent ourselves. There's a gentleman called Clayton Christensen. He's a Harvard professor. He wrote two books that are seminal. One is called Innovator's Dilemma, and the other book is called Innovator's Solution. That's one way to make money. You first state a problem, and then you publish another book that provides a solution. So basically, the premise of Innovator's Dilemma and Innovator's Solution is the notion of disruptive innovation. So what is disruptive innovation? Disruptive innovation means that you can do incremental innovation by doing the same thing and continue to improve upon it, Six Sigma type. Or you can break out from your existing path and do something drastically different and create new market opportunity. If you look at the history of American corporations or corporations across the world, only a few companies can truly create this so-called disruptive innovation. Why is it so hard? So they use the example of Intel. I don't know whether you remember, but Intel has a chip called Centrino. So what is Centrino? Centrino. So Centrino is basically a low-end chip that breaks out from the x86 curve. If you look at x86, they're going from 386 to 486 to 586, right? To Pentium and so on and so forth. They were basically over-innovating. If you look at incremental innovation, you always go for higher clock speed, more MIPS, million instructions per second. And that's the path that Intel was going. And they were running ahead of the customer. They basically failed to understand customer needs. Our customer were looking for more speed. They only want to upgrade so many times. See, in the old days, when you have clumsy software like Windows, back in those days of Windows, clumsy, at that time it was clumsy. Yeah? Now, Windows 7 is quite good. I don't discourage you to use Windows 7. But at that time, Windows was quite clumsy. All this software is quite clumsy. Therefore, you have to keep up, and you have to upgrade from 286 to 386 because it takes 2-3 minutes to start this machine, right? So, but when you get to Pentium, you start actually keeping pace with the software, and you don't need to have more CPU in order to run your software. So they start out-innovating the customer, and they start losing market share. So at that time, they actually look at this. Andy Groves, he's the CEO of Intel. He is an astute gentleman because he realized that he's out-innovating, and that is not a sustainable curve. So he decided that, okay, let's undercut ourselves before other people undercut us. And they start going down the innovation curve and offer a lower price chipset called Centrino, which is counterintuitive if you are people at Intel. Because you're Intel, you stay on a treadmill, run every day. You try to run faster every day. But all of a sudden, the boss tells you to move away from a treadmill to a stationary bike. Right? That's counterintuitive. But that's what saved Intel's fortune as a company. That's how Intel was able to become the large company that it is today, because they were able to grab market share in the low end of the market. And that was tremendous. So that was the notion of disruptive innovation. So why am I going for all this trouble to explain the concept to you? Because when you don't have that legacy, you don't have to deal with something called inertia. Inertia is very hard to fight. The guy that founded the Keynesian economics said one thing. He said that there's never a shortage of ideas. But the problem is, how do you escape your inertia? The benefits of YTL not being a telco is tremendous, because we are not trying to give you more voice. We're going to give you mobile internet, and you need to think like an internet company. It's very hard for telco to think and act like an internet company. It is fundamentally blood transfusion at the highest level. So we are actually quite fortunate that as a group, we have the resource to execute, but yet we are not, if you would, regiment to think like a telco. And when you can apply fresh thinking with the right investment, then you can create interesting different results. Price plan, if I tell you my price plan right now, I think I'll have a lot of problem with my board, so we don't do that. I do want to launch this network, so we don't talk about price plan. But suffice to say, one thing we believe in is value creation. What is value creation from a pricing standpoint? We want to give you so-called customer surplus. What that means is that, as simple as that. Right now, if you talk to a telco, you either do prepay or postpay. You either get yourself a bucket of minutes or whatever tonnage. Well, if you're stuck with this mindset, then on a monthly basis, you actually end up losing money to the telco. So suffice to say, let me give you an element of surprise when we launch our network, that you will see as customer surplus when you look at our pricing plan. You can look at our price, you look at our competitor's price, and you will see a surplus. Is that fair? Okay. So the last question you asked, if I still remember, is how do you go about launching phones? Android. Well, if I may remind you, I actually do the due diligence of Android back in my heyday, so I got it under control, thank you. So, questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, before we start our Q&A, may I remind you to keep your questions short, and can we take like 3 questions at a time?
This gentleman here, and then this lady back there.
What do you make of, on patents, what do you make of intellectual ventures? Do you approve of what they do?
Yeah, I don't. Let me qualify. I don't believe in using patents for the sake of blocking other people. I don't believe in using patents for the sake of driving profits or litigation. I do believe the use of patents to create value for people. That's my answer. I think the patent should be a byproduct of innovation. The patents themselves should not be the innovation. This lady back there.
In Malaysia, there are many operators, YMAX, even the fixed broadband. I mean, it's been around for many years, and it's still delivering up to a certain standard of quality. I'm sure YTL will face the same challenges. So I'd like to know what are the challenges that YTL is facing in rolling out YMAX into this country.
Right. So it's never easy to launch a nationwide network, right? So that it goes without saying, it just takes hard work, good, honest, hard work. And YTL has the DNA to do good, honest, hard work as a builder. So that is important for you to know that. The second is that, so yes, right now, 3G, suffice to say, is not exactly ubiquitous. And I can attest every night when I go home, when I try to upload anything, like sending any email with an attachment, the 60K was really, really painful, I know that.